Okay, so with this recording here, I'm just trying to show how I convert the banks from old quizzes to new quizzes. So this is essentially my process. I'm going to warn you, it's not pretty, but it's not terrible once you kind of get used to the whole thing. So to start off with, I need to pick a quiz I haven't dealt with yet. So I'm going to pick this one right here. It says CA3A2 Audit on Electric Force. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open that in a new tab. So you can see this is just the regular old quiz. So now to begin the conversion process. So it's really two parts. You have to convert the quiz and then the banks. So to do that, I'll come over here, click on the three dots, come down where it says migrate. So you can click that to migrate it. So it's migrating the old quiz and making a new one. This should bring over all of our settings and stuff for the new quiz, and that's the first part. It brings over all the settings and like dates and stuff like that, but it doesn't bring over banks. It would bring over questions, except I don't have any questions that aren't in banks. So it usually just takes a minute or two, and there I just got a notification for an email, so that probably means that it's done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the refresh button here. And you'll see that this is the CA3A2 audit. You'll see that there's a unpublished one underneath it. This is the brand new one. So I'm going to go ahead and open that one up too. Now this is where things are going to get a little interesting. So let's go ahead and make sure our settings are the same. So this one, it says, oh, invalid items. Students will not be able to take this assessment until they are resolved. Okay, well what that means is if I scroll down here, you can see that in this case, there's only one bank that it's pulling from. And it says the number of questions exceeded. It's because the bank hasn't been transferred over. The quiz has, or the audit in this case, but it doesn't have any banks with it, so it doesn't know what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss that. And usually if I have multiple banks, it'll have multiple little indications, because essentially you shouldn't give this quiz because it doesn't have all the questions you think it has. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check the settings. Now, for general audit settings, I do want it to shuffle questions, shuffle answers, one question at a time. I don't want a student access code. This is just practice. I want them to be able to do it at any time. I don't want there to be a time limit. Like I said, it's just practice. I don't want to filter addresses because it's practice. I do want to allow a calculator. I usually go for scientific since this is a science class. I do allow multiple attempts, and for my kiddos here, I do want to make them wait at least 10 minutes. I know it's painful for them, but I do want them to think about what they've done in between their attempts, not just crank on through it. And for my AP students, I like to restrict the results, but not really that much. I pretty much allow them to see everything, but I just don't want them to see the correct answer. On math problems, I would like the correct answer, but for text problems, if I'm asked about Newton's third law, they should know that answer already. And if they don't, I don't want them getting the answer by simply using one of their attempts. So just restricts them a little bit. But then I go back through here and I kind of check, okay, yeah, this all looks basically like I had before, don't show correct answers, stuff like that. All right, so I'm ready to go on that, but I still need to bring over the bank. So how do I do that? Well, that's where this guy really comes in. So what I like to do is I come over here and I click edit, and I go into the questions tab. So it starts in details and switch to questions. And in this case, it says it's pulling from Coulomb's law. Man, look at all of those learning objectives that are attached to this particular bank. Now, with this one, it's not so much, first of all, with Coulomb's law, if you know Coulomb's law, addresses force. There's also electrostatic force, and there's just many things. So the reason why this has so many learning objectives is simply because a lot of these I feel like are stuff they should have learned last year, but the learning objectives were carried over for physics too, and so there's a lot of objectives that are like, oh, Newton's third law. It's like, yeah, technically, but that's not really the point here, but it's covered by that bank. Anyway, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this bank. So I right-clicked on it, Click open a new tab. So I've got the bank over here. And, you know, it's Coulomb's law. It's got a lot of questions in it. So how do I go about getting that? So what I do is I'll typically copy this name. And so I'm not changing any of my formatting on that at all. When I go back over here to the details tab, I'm actually going to change the name to the bank name. Because as you'll see in a minute, the way it gets uploaded is it'll actually upload the bank name as, the audit name as the bank name. So, but even if I import it right now, it's still not going to have all the questions. So what I do is I go find questions, and I search for that particular bank. So in this case, we're looking for CA3 Coulomb's law. So I scroll down here, CA3 Coulomb's law. Oh, there it is. It's got 48 questions. I'm going to select all. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here. I'm going to add them. Now this will take Canvas a second to dump. So I'm literally just dumping all of the questions from the bank into my old quiz. Okay, it'll take it a minute here because it's got 48 questions. It'll take a second. So I'll just let it finish up here, and then when it gets done, I'll just click save. About done there. Click save. And so if I remember, it had 48 questions. Oh, look at all those points. It's kind of hard to judge by that because some of these questions had individual points and it's a whole thing. But I know I started with 100, so I should have way more than 100. Theoretically, if they're 1 point per question, they should be 148, but I digress. So now what's the next step? Well, the next step is to export and then import. So we go down here to settings, and I go export course content. So I want to export just this quiz that I just made. So I want to click on just a quiz, and I don't want to select all quizzes here. So I go to export type, I selected quiz, and I want to export, this random quiz that I just changed, which actually is pretty easy because all my others have parentheses around it, but this one looks quite different. So that's the one I just changed. Remember, I changed the bank name to be the quiz name. So I'm going to create export. It says this could take a bit, but since it's just one little quiz, it doesn't take very much time at all. So now I'm going to download this, and there it is. I've downloaded it onto my desktop. So now I need to go and upload this into the bank. So the way you upload this into the bank is now in the actual new quiz, and I'm going to click Item Banks. And so to do this, I need a new bank. And it turns out it doesn't matter what you name this, because it's going to override the name with whatever the name of that thing is. So I'm going to click Create Bank. I usually put an A on it so I can find it easier, but here's my random junk. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go into the bank. So I'm going to go to Item Banks, and I want to edit the bank. So I should hit the 3 dots and click Edit. Yeah, no, there's no. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, here we go. Manage item bank contents. So you have to add the bank first. So you can either do that in that menu or obviously this menu here. So now that I'm in here, I can click on this and I can add. So to add, I click Add New. So I click that button. Now, come up here to the top. I click the 3 dots to import content. So I need to find that content that I just downloaded, and here's this AP Physics 2 quiz export. So that should be the content that I want, because I got it from AP Physics 2. I import the content. It'll take a second here. And when it's done, this box should change. Probably taking a second because we have so many questions. There it is. We're done, and you'll notice that the title has changed to what I had. I've got all of my questions in here. I can go through and verify them, but I'm not going to do that in this video. Then I click Return. So I still have to resolve this. So now what I do is I come down here, I click Edit, and I tell it to choose the bank that I just uploaded, in this case CA3 for Coulomb's Law. And that all looks good, done. and the thing is imported. Now, if I had multiple banks for this old one here, so I've still got this old quiz in this thing here. So let me refresh this. So it's not going to say this anymore. It's going to say that random name. What I would do is if I had multiple banks, I would go into this quiz and I would edit it again. And I would go through and I would have to delete all of these questions, which is kind of a pain. But notice that I didn't delete this bank. So if I had multiple banks, I could see that. And what I would do at this time is I would delete this bank because I just uploaded that one. And then I would go through, delete all my questions. And then I'll go to the next bank, rename it to the next bank's name, import those questions only, and then do the process that I just showed you. Hopefully that helps on how to get the banks from old quizzes to new quizzes. That's just kind of my process right now.